Verses 8 through 10 read, Imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure she'll call her friends and neighbors. Celebrate with me. I found my lost coin. Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. We pray for the one. We serve for the one. We give for the one. We invite the one. We are surrounded by ones. It's time to find them.
Nothing like announcing that we need 2 services, and the proof is this is a full house right now. If you know me well, and my wife could echo this, I lose things, and I lose things a lot. It literally is a problem for me. No joke, as I was preparing this sermon on Wednesday, so 4 days ago, I'm writing my sermon, and I need to get my phone, and I lose my phone. And I spent like 15 minutes in the house, going under rugs, couch, all this stuff. I don't even remember where I found it. But this is also something that I think was like my first Christmas at the Bridge. I believe it was the Molders. Not sure if you guys are here right now or not. But they actually gave me a GPS tracker to put on my keychain as a Christmas gift. So thank you guys at the Lifesaver. But a couple years before that, probably the most traumatic story that I've had of losing something is this. 6 years ago, right after Christmas, me, Rachel, her mom, Beth, her brother-in-law, Craig, was in town, and we left to go to the Central Coast, San Luis Obispo, if you've ever been there. Awesome, awesome place. And so we're there for a couple days, and we go to Montana del Oro Park. If you've ever been there, anybody been there? Beautiful place. So we go on a 45-minute hike. And I actually have a picture that I took on this hike. There it is right there. And so the way this works out is if you can kind of see, there's like a ledge right there, and that's where all the cars park. And then you get out of your car, you park, and then you go on this hike. And the whole hike is along these majestic like cliffs that are just going over the Pacific Ocean. So we do this for 45 minutes, and we start heading back to the road where you park your car. And I see our car in the distance, and I put my hand in my pocket. And I don't feel anything else in my pocket. I try the other pocket. I try the back pockets. And they're all empty. And I do it again. I mean, I knew there's something, but I double take, okay. And I can't, my keys aren't in there. Now, my brother-in-law, Craig, he's a prankster. And so I'm like, okay. Craig took my keys. He thinks this is going to be funny. But before I go there, hey, Rachel, Beth, I'm like, hey, do you guys have my car keys? No. Like, you drove. You got them, Mark. Yeah, I know that. And I'm like, so they say no. I'm like, Craig, dude, real funny. Like, just cough them up. I know you have my keys. And he's like, no, I don't have them. I'm like, yeah, I knew that you would say that. But still, give me my keys. He's like, no, seriously, I don't have them. And even when he says no, I'm like so convinced that he does have them. But I'm like, okay. And I'm like, Rachel's not going to let me live this one down. This one's going in the books. And of course, anybody who loses things, I never say I lose things. I just say I misplaced them. I misplaced me. So I enter into kind of like strategy mode. And, all right, well, we got to find the key because here's what's running through my head. We only brought my key up. We're 4 hours away from home. And, I've never lost the keys in my car being 4 hours away from home. And so I'm kind of like, well, can we call AAA? Like, can they fix it somehow? I'm like, maybe we go to the local Toyota dealership in San Luis Obispo, and maybe they can help out. But then I'm like, yeah, but if that was the case, couldn't anybody just say, oh yeah, that's my car, I lost the key, can you help me? And then like, that's a way to steal your car. Like, and so I'm running through all these scenarios in my mind. I'm like, oh, none of those are gonna work. Like, I don't think you can do that, because how are they gonna be able to tell that I own this car? So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to go back, retrace our steps in this 45-minute hike to find the keys. Because obviously they're there, we drove there, so they're somewhere here on the hike. So we go back, we spread out, going along, and literally I'm like on the cliff, like looking down into the Pacific Ocean. I'm like, I think I dropped them into the water. And I'm kind of like, I'm literally in my mind contemplating. I know this sounds crazy, but like, okay, do I just go down the cliff and like go look in the water? I mean, I'm so stiff. Like, even if that was the case, like, you can kiss those things bye-bye. Like, they're in the Pacific. There's not stairs. But I'm still entertaining the idea, because this is such a stressful situation that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the Toyota RAV4 key. We don't find it. Gone through the whole hike, bushes, looking at the dirt. People seeing us, they're probably like, why is this guy kind of like, is he like contemplating his life? He's like leaning over the edge. So we go back up to the ledge where the cars are parked. And at this point, precisely because we didn't find them, I'm actually more convinced that Craig does have it. And right when I look at him, I see him put his hands into his pocket and like kind of shuffle. And right when he does it, I hear the beep, beep, like the car unlock noise. Craig, I knew you had it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? And he like flips open his pockets, like they're not there. And there's this guy that's walking toward us. He's like, hey, is this your key? Like, the alarm's going off. I'm like, yes, thank you. He's like, yeah, I was waiting for you. Someone found these keys on the trail, and so I came back to figure out what key it was, and I went and wrote a note on your windshield, but now you're here, so I can just give them to you in person. And all of us were, oh, I don't know this guy. I gave him a hug. And we were so full of joy. I mean, I couldn't have been more excited, because like I said, AAA, Toyota, I didn't know what was going to happen. We weren't close to home, and that was the only key that we had. My lost key was found. We could go home, and we were full of joy. In Luke 15, Jesus of Nazareth gives 3 provocative stories, and they are provocative. They're parables, and they're all about something lost being found. And not just that, his point is, Jesus is like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to find that one small thing that's lost. I'm going to find it. So, for the next 5 weeks, whole month of August, first Sunday in September, we are going to be camping out in Luke 15, which is all about the lost being found. And then actually the last 2 weeks will be in Luke 16. It goes into another topic, and I think it actually all is pretty cohesive for us as a church in this season. So Luke 15 and 16, next 5 weeks, all about for the one. So let's get the party started. Luke 15, go ahead and turn there. If you need a Bible this morning, we got free orange ones underneath the chairs, page 713. Luke, who writes this biography of Jesus, he does something really nice for us. Sometimes you can read the Bible and it can be a little confusing to figure out what's going on. What Luke does, though, before Jesus shares these 3 stories, these 3 parables, Luke tips us off as to what motivates Jesus to share these stories. Context matters when you read the Bible. You got to know, why is this going on? What's the background? Well, thankfully, Luke provides us with that background information. So verse 1, here's the context. Now, the tax collectors and the sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees And the teachers of the law muttered, or it kind of means grumbling. This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. And you can kind of picture them saying it under their voice, like whispering it to each other and just being negative Nancy's. Before I even get into the stories, this is so key for these to understand Luke 15. A lot of times people will read these stories and they think these stories are like for the lost. And in some ways they are indirectly, but actually they're for people who say they're religious. They're actually for us. And here's what Jesus is doing. Apparently, there's all these people who are of questionable character. They don't have good reputations. They're a little scandalous. Tax collectors were like socially despised in the first century Jewish world. They were part of Rome. Jewish people did not like them. And then the word sinners there means a little bit differently than what we normally think of that word. It meant people who didn't abide by all the religious rules of the day. And so Jewish religious people, they didn't like these people because they didn't follow their laws. And so they called them sinners. Well, those are actually the people that are most attracted to Jesus, is the tax collectors and the sinners. And so Jesus gets this reputation of hanging out and eating with the wrong crowd. Maybe you've heard the phrase that it says, you are what you eat. For Jesus and the early church, they would have nuanced that, and they would say, you are who you eat with. Who you ate with in the ancient world was everything. It indicated your friendship, who you approved of. And so these religious leaders, they're looking at Jesus and they're like, look who he's eating with. He's eating with all the wrong people, the tax collectors and the sinners. And so they're grumbling and they're negative towards him. They have this kind of morally superior, religious, legalistic attitude, looking down on people. Oh, we're better, we're more holy. And so they're angry and they're judgmental at Jesus. That is the context. Jesus is talking to religious people who think they are all holy and everything else. He's actually talking to religious people. So, with that in mind, here's the first two parables he gives. We're just going to talk about the first two this morning. The first one is usually called the parable of the lost sheep. And it starts in verse 3. Here's what Jesus says. Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, and notice this, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. And then he calls his friends and his neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. I tell you in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who does not need to repent. Then he gives the second one. It's called the parable of the lost coin. Verse 8. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin. In the same way I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Now, these two stories, I would venture to guess, I think most of us understand it actually. They're pretty straightforward parables. There is one common theme or one common thread that is in both these parables, and then the next 2 weeks we're going to look at the third story, and it's in that one too. Here's the common theme. We'll put up on the screen real quick. It's this. The storyline is this. There's a lost object. There's exhaustive searching for that lost object. They find it, and then they rejoice. That is the point of these stories, those four things. However, I think if you grew up in the church, you've probably heard of these parables so much, preachers love to preach on them, that honestly, I think we've kind of grown numb to them. We're used to them. They don't do anything to our heart anymore. And furthermore, there is such a vast cultural difference between us now and then the first century Jewish world when Jesus gave these, that I think we kind of miss the punch that Jesus gives, because he's actually being pretty sassy here. And so what I want to do is I kind of want to point out, I want to highlight the cultural differences that I think hopefully will bring these stories to life for us as they would have back then. Here's the first thing I want to point out. Obviously, none of us today are shepherds. Anybody in here a shepherd? All right, that's kind of what I was expecting. Most people, when we read this, here's the question we have. Why would a shepherd leave 99 sheep to just go find one? It's a very common, rational question. You should be asking that. Why? That doesn't make sense. Why would a shepherd leave 99 and then maybe open them up for attack with wolves or whatever like that just to go find one? The math on there doesn't really add up. Well, here's what you got to know. In that society, if you owned 100 sheep, that meant that you were at minimum probably at least middle income, but probably more so moderately wealthy if you were able to own 100 sheep. If you were able to own 100 sheep, two things. You weren't the actual shepherd because you had the money to hire it out. So you would pay someone or your son or whatever it is to be the shepherd. And then secondly, if you were moderately wealthy, you also had the money to have multiple shepherds. So this idea here that, okay, there's 99, they leave the 99 for the one. No, what would have happened is one shepherd would have stayed with the 99, and then the other one would have gone and looked for the one. So it was actually a very rational thing for them to be doing that. Here's what's fascinating about this parable. Jesus purposely leaves that out, meaning he's actually wanting this to sound extreme. He's wanting to make a point with this. He's leaving out that detail. And then the other thing that Jesus assumes in this passage, and check this out, is that he actually assumes that he's the owner of the sheep. And he says, I'm the shepherd and I'm going to go out. That was unheard of. You would send someone else. Jesus said, no, these are mine and I'm going to go out and find them myself. But there's more. Finding a lost sheep is actually really hard and taxing. So, of course you would want to hire this out. Of course you would want to have someone else go do this. But here's the punchline, I think, in this. That is exactly what Jesus doesn't do. He doesn't hire it out. He says, I'm going to go find it. Now, to help us understand this, there's a guy named Kenneth Bailey. He specializes, this is so niche, he specializes in Middle Eastern first century shepherding, if you will. And so he's written a book just on Luke 15 of painting it in its context. And here's what he writes. We'll put this on the screen. The open pasture lands of Israel and Palestine are rugged. Each rock could have a sheep quivering behind it. My shepherd friends of Lebanon and Palestine tell me that a sheep once lost is terrified. It sits down, usually in a sheltered place as is immediately available, and starts shaking and bleeding. When found, check this out, it is in such a state of nervous collapse that it cannot stand or be made to stand. It cannot walk or be led, nor will it respond to the shepherd's well-known call. If it is to be restored to the fold, the shepherd must carry it on his two shoulders. The animal can weigh up to 70 pounds. The country is rugged. It is a mark of strength, courage, and character of the shepherd that he rejoices when he finds it. So, it's not even a matter of finding the lost sheep. Not only did Jesus not hire that out, he goes and finds it himself. He gets messy. But even if you find the lost sheep, you still have an issue because the sheep's not going to get up on its own and follow you back. It's not going to listen to your voice because it's scared. But Jesus is the great shepherd who puts a 70-pound sheep on his shoulders and takes it home. And then do you notice verse 5? He joyfully puts it on his shoulders. This is the God we serve. He doesn't hire out his work. He's going to go get it himself, and he's going to put it in rugged terrain and a heavy, smelly, I haven't even been near sheep. He's going to put it on his shoulders, and he's going back home, and he's going to do it with joy. Now, here's the punchline. This was a direct critique to the Pharisees. Why? In the Old Testament, and they would have picked this up right away, the leaders of Israel were called shepherds. They were to shepherd God's flock. It was a very common metaphor. And what Jesus is saying is, you're not doing that well. Let me read for you Ezekiel 34. Ezekiel 34, you'll get the tone of this. So Jesus is he's critiquing he's saying, you guys are supposed to be shepherds and you're not doing it. Here, listen to Ezekiel 34. We'll put it on the screen. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You have not brought back the strays or searched for the lost. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched or looked for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered and has become food for all the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for my flock. Verse 11, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so I will look after my sheep, and I will rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on a day of clouds and darkness. This is what Jesus is doing. All right, that's the first story. Parable of the lost coin. Story here. It's of a woman. She's in a house. Most scholars think that it's a cash box that she has, and it has 10 silver coins in it. Each coin, just for what it's worth, is about worth a day's wage. All right, so she's got 10 days, about a week and a half worth of wages in this cash box. She loses one of them. And kind of the emphasis in this short little story is this. She takes painstaking effort to find just this one little silver coin. You and I ask this, Mark, how hard can it be to find one coin? It's not that tough. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but this isn't a huge deal. Well, that's my first impression. I was doing some reading this past week, and here's what I found. We're going to put up two pictures. This is what houses look like in Capernaum, which is where Jesus did his ministry. Very well could be where this story is being shared. All first century houses were made of what's called black basalt rock. Show the next one. These are actual houses that archaeologists have found in the first century in Capernaum where Jesus is at, and it's made out of black basalt stone. So now picture a little silver coin dropped somewhere on there. There's wide cracks. By the way, there's no electricity. All right? Mark, maybe they have windows. Their windows were very thin, like slits at the very top. They're probably up at the 7-foot mark. So no electricity, really no windows, and you drop a coin on that. That changes the game a little bit, right? It's not as easy as you think. This is why, by the way, that Jesus says this lady, she goes to light a lamp. It's hard to see inside. Here's a modern day equivalent. I thought of this. My 5-year-old son, Parker is just really into Legos right now. And we just bought him a week ago this like ice cream truck set thing. And so it took a while for me to put it together with him. The thing about this ice cream set, and really any Lego set now, man, those things have the smallest little pieces. So this has, I was going to bring one up, but there's no point because you couldn't even see it, the little like ice cream cones. They're like half the size of my fingernail. And so what does Parker like to do, of course? Well, he takes his truck and he rides it all throughout the house. And do you think he rams it and crushes it and all the pieces go everywhere? Absolutely. And who does he go to yelling at to go find all the pieces? Yours truly. What a joy. And so over and over and over, I have to find these little Lego pieces that are all over the house, and they're never where you think they are. So I literally, this past, I probably spent, 30 minutes, an hour cumulative, finding all these. I have to pull the couch out. I have to pull the rug up, look under the rug. I had dinner a couple nights ago. I finished the plate. I was sitting over the sink, and there's one of the ice cream cones on my plate. I'm like, I don't even want to know how, did I eat one on accident? What in the world? It is not fun finding those. But my son, he has a really sharp memory. And he knows exactly how many pieces. And he doesn't stop bugging me until I get every single little yellow, orange, pink, green ice cream cone. And he won't stop until he gets them all. That is exactly how God is with finding the lost. He doesn't stop. He doesn't just want one. No matter wherever it is, God is going to find that person. David Garland in his Luke commentary, I had to share this. It's a little long, but this is so convicting and challenging. Here's what he writes, speaking on this passage. 99% or 90% are great percentages, but it is not good enough for God. We cannot say, since God has us, God has enough. What more could God want? If a family of 10 were to sit down to Sunday dinner and discover that little Sarah is not present, the head of that family does not gruffly respond, "She knows what time we eat, and if she's not here, that's her problem." Nor does that one say, "Well, 9 of us are here, that's 90%, and that's good enough." Nor does that one grumble when the rest of the family starts looking for little Sarah. Why bother looking for her? Let's eat. Then 3 months later, someone asks, "Do you remember little Sarah, who used to be a member of our family? I wonder whatever became of her." In the context, Jesus would be saying to the Pharisees, "I seek the lost for God, so should you." About 4 months ago, it was about April, but as Brock said, this whole two-service thing is not a gut reaction. It's actually something that's been talked about some staff members probably for about a year. And it was in April and May that I got word that our parking lot was full. Actually, I haven't asked anybody. I would expect it to probably be full right now. And by full, I mean there were no empty spots and people were parking in non-designated spots. Don't tell the fire department that. So I asked Beth, who's our office and facility coordinator, who then asked Brad, Brad's a volunteer, heads up our usher team. Brad, where you at? Come on, the man, the myth, the legend, right there in the back. Being a great security person, sitting in the back, we see you. And so I had them start counting on Sundays at like 10:30, because people come late, which is fine. Hey, could you just start counting how many parking spots are available? We just need to know. So they did that April, May. And I was texting with Brad one Sunday afternoon after the service. And I said, "Hey, Brad, any empty spots?" And amazing security. He gave me nope, and he gave just particular locations. And he actually went into detail, and he said, actually, Mark, I saw a white car come in. They couldn't find a spot. They kept driving around, and then they left. Now, Brad is such a good security person. He also gave me their license plate number and all that. I'm like, okay, bro. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah, make, model, all this stuff. Okay, I don't need to know all that information. But we lost a family that Sunday. And I don't know about you. I mean, on the one hand, maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal to you. But on the other hand, you don't know what that family was going through. I think every human desperately needs to hear about Jesus Christ, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever you are. That's why we actually showed that drone footage in that video bumper. Someone was lost. But Jesus says, I'm going to go after the one. I want to bring clarity to a couple things. Here's why we're not adding another service. We're not adding another service just because the parking lot's full. Now, that is a problem that needs to be solved regardless. So even if we decided not to add a service, okay, then there's other problems with it, and we got to figure that out. But that is not why. That is not at the core of why we are adding another service. We're also not adding another service just to grow and get more people. Though growth and getting more people is a good thing. But that's not why. Here's what I want you to know. We are adding another service because Jesus is the great shepherd who will leave the 99 to go after the one. Jesus is that lady who exhaustively will search a house to find one little silver coin. That is why we're adding another service, because Jesus would do that. Jesus goes after the one. Jesus makes space for everyone. Our mission statement here at the Bridge is this: to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do what Jesus did. Let me back up and give a helicopter view for you. We preach a certain way on purpose. In January, we had a series called Undistracted. And it had to do with actually spending more time with Jesus than your phone. Be with Jesus. Emotionally healthy spirituality was all about becoming like Jesus with your emotions and your character. And now it's time to do what Jesus did. What did Jesus do? Jesus told stories about going after the one. We want to be a church that has the heart of Jesus, which is to go and to seek and save the one, the lost. That is why we are doing this. That is why we're in Luke 15. The invitation is for us to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do what Jesus did. Then the question becomes, okay, well, how do we do this? What does that look like for you practically to seek the one? Pastor Brock mentioned a little flyer on your chair. If everyone could pull that out right now. These are the 4 key ways that we have identified to give you practical steps for all of us to go after the one. And I'm going to actually be very particular here with my order in this. The most important thing that you can do on this is to first pray. First pray. And let me be specific. We want everyone here to identify one person in their life that you can commit to these next 5 weeks, so the month of August, who's just one, that you can commit to pray for who doesn't know Jesus. Now, I'm not talking about, maybe you have a family member or a friend in Texas or Florida. Please pray for those people. That matters. I'm not saying don't pray for them. But what I'm asking for in this is, who's someone here in the Chino Valley who doesn't know Jesus, who's lost, that you can pray for? There are thousands of people here in this area who don't know Jesus. Can we pray for them? One of our values here is to be fueled by the Spirit. We want this season to be bathed and marinated in prayer. That is number one. Both sides of me, over there and over there, you're going to see these prayer walls. There's little tags. We're going to have you write down whoever your one is. Everyone has a one. We just want you to write down their name and just put it up on there as just a symbolic posture for us corporately of, here are all the ones that we are praying for. Second thing, invite. Now, we are called to invite people. And I want to give you a couple options here. One of the reasons why we do Alpha is because we fully know that sometimes people who aren't into Jesus, are skeptic of Jesus, they're not going to come here on a Sunday morning. That's great. That's fine. Invite them to Alpha. Pastor Brock talked about that. Alpha is made for people who are skeptical about Jesus, who have questions. It's all the logo for it is a question mark. So if you have someone who's going to be not comfortable coming to church on a Sunday morning, have them go to Alpha. That is actually the place made for them. There's a free dinner. It's amazing. You get great friendships. Now, if you think they're comfortable in coming on a Sunday morning, then please, by all means, invite them. Third thing, two more. Third thing is to serve on a Sunday. This is what Pastor Brock talked about as well. There's a mantra that you're going to hear the next 5 weeks, and it's on the front side of that flyer. It's called Serve One, Attend One. Here's the great thing about going to two services. Right now, if you serve in Bridge Kids once a month, and that's all we're asking is once a month, not every Sunday. The unfortunate thing is that then you miss this, right? It's hard to receive. And it's a bummer because we want everyone to receive. The good thing about two services is that then let's say you serve at the 9 a.m., then you stay for the 11 a.m. and you can receive. So attend one, serve one. We are inviting everyone to step into this for the one. For the person who's going to come through those doors, whose life is a mess right now, and they desperately need to hear Jesus, or their kids desperately need to be with adults who would just serve them and pray for them and love them. That is why. And so the good thing is that you don't even have to miss out because you can serve one, attend one. So the two areas that we really, 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 really need, if you haven't caught yet, kids ministry on a Sunday morning, and then the welcome team. Welcome team is like greeters, ushers, security, parking, all that kind of stuff. Those are the two areas. So if you turn the card over, you see two QR codes for kids and for serving. If you can just scan that, fill it out. We need everyone. The great thing about this, Brock used the word discipleship, is there going to be some added work to this? Of course. It's actually a good thing, though, because American church culture has a tendency we treat it like consumers. This is a great opportunity for us to all get involved and to be more of a family. It's actually this thing is going to push us in a healthy, biblical way. So please, please, please get involved. After the service, Pastor Kelsey, Beth will be outside on the patio. They'll answer any of your questions about serving. We're just asking for one Sunday a month. That's it. And by the way, at their tables, they're also giving away Taylor Swift tickets. All you Swifties out there. If only that was true. Jocelyn, I heard you. Jocelyn's actually going to Taylor Swift tomorrow. Yeah, come on. That was a joke, by the way. I'm not lying. Or I was lying, so now I'm giving you the truth. Sorry. And then last thing, giving. We want to invite you into investing in the kingdom of God through here at the Bridge. And know that giving isn't just about money, it's actually about your heart. And giving allows you to leave an eternal impact and a ripple effect that will last for decades. I mean, there are people who have been a part of the Bridge for a long time, that their giving has led to this. That is an eternal impact and ripple effect. Can you give for the one? Now, if you're anything like me, I'm cynical. I'm a glass half empty, not a glass half full person. And so my reaction to this would be, okay, I'll pray for someone. Maybe I'll invite someone. I don't want to serve. But the real lie that I will listen to is this. It's not really going to impact someone. It's not really going to change anything. That is how I tend to process, and maybe you're quite different than me. But earlier this year, my faith and hope were renewed in a very unexpected, surprising way. And I need to share this with you. One random morning, I was to take Parker to a park. And I was supposed to do it early in the morning. I don't know, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever. And for whatever reason, I couldn't get out of the house at that time. Ended up being hours delayed. And I finally took him to the park. And I took him to a park that we don't usually go to, because Chino Hills, I think it's called like English Springs Park or something like that. It's the one with like the lake and all the turtles around it, if you know what I'm talking about. Our kids love the turtles, so we just go there for the turtles. So I decided to take him there. I mean, it's not even a park here in the preserve. And so I get there, and we go to the playground. We don't usually go to the playground. We usually go to the water because the turtles are in the water, and kids love turtles. So I'm in the playground. Parker's in the playground just doing his thing, and I'm just standing there. He goes on my phone. And I hear someone, Parker, Parker. But it wasn't me. Concerned dad, I look up. I can tell it's this lady, and she's talking to another boy whose name is Parker. Parker's not a super common name. Like we don't usually meet other Parkers usually. Oh, and it's another boy, and he ends up being just like a year younger than our Parker. It's two Parkers around the same age. So then me and the mom end up talking because we figure out, we both have boys around the same age whose sons are named Parker. We talked for like 30 minutes. And she doesn't know this, but in this conversation, I actually have a deep sense of like, I need to invite her to church. But I kept pushing it off because I don't want to be the weird guy. And so you know I'm the pastor. I try not to drop that card because they just change their demeanor right away when I tell my pastor. So I avoid that at all costs. We talk. We ended up talking about preschool, I think. I didn't invite her to church. She went away, I went away, and I was like, I couldn't shake it. And I had one of those conversations with the Lord where I was like, all right, God, if she comes back and I talk to her again, fine, I'll invite her to church. You got me. Well, we end up talking again. And I invite her to church. And I want you to welcome up Audrey. Come on up, Audrey. Audrey, there's actually a lot of cool parts about the story. Come on up. The first time that Audrey came to the bridge, we weren't even here. I think we were gone on vacation like that. So not only did she come, then the only person that she met isn't here. And then like the next Sunday after that, we saw her outside lining up her Parker for kids. And here's why I share that. It was one of those moments for me where I was just like, it worked. Oh my gosh, this lady is here. And it wasn't even just a one-time thing. I think that was like January, February.
Yeah, it was January. It was my best friend's birthday. I told her as soon as I met you, I called her and I was like, I just met this pastor, and it was like, I just prayed the night before for guidance because I was feeling so lost. And I was just like having this like hopelessness feeling, like something was missing. And so after I met you, I just felt like so compelled to call my best friend and share. And then that following Sunday was her birthday, and she said it was like the best birthday present that we got to come to the bridge. And yeah, we heard Brock. That was the first time we came here. We heard Brock, you guys were gone. And it was just so powerful on so many levels. Like, yeah, that was the first time I actually prayed in like 2 years. And then I met you the next day, and both of our boys are named Parker, and like we have to obviously talk. Yes. You can't like not talk after that, that meeting. So yeah, it's really powerful.
Amazing.
Like, God was definitely working through you that day.
So you actually just shared, you're doing amazing. She happened to pray the night before.
Yeah. Yeah.
She felt lost.
I started getting a little bit of anxiety, like leading up to our meeting, actually. And I've experienced anxiety before, and it was like feeling really heavy and thick. And like, I didn't want it to like consume me like it did last time. So I was just praying, like, please help me like work through this. And yeah, I'm here. So
you are. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Audrey, could you share what were maybe some of the things going on before you got to the bridge, and what are some things that have happened since? Kind of a compare and a contrast, if you will.
Well, before the bridge, I would say that if people ask me like if I believed, I would say I believed in God, but I didn't know God at all. Like I didn't pray, I didn't read the Bible, I didn't know God like that. And I've tried, and I don't know, like I just felt like disconnected. I don't know. It just nothing was clicking. And after I had Parker, my 4-year-old, that feeling came back where I'm like, okay, how do I raise my children like with these big questions and I don't know? And then it was like getting to preschool time, and I'm like, I want to put him into a Christian preschool. That's where we were talking about the Christian preschool, but I don't even know God. Like how, I was like, I know I need to talk to God again. I need to like have God in my life to lead me and my family, because I felt lost in that sense. And after I started here at the church, you introduced me to a couple people, Peggy, and like I felt like I've just kind of had this like family in that sense. I was raised by my dad, no mother. So like I had this estranged relationship with my mother, and that was one of the beautiful things that I feel that has came out of the bridge is my mom's been attending church with me, and I haven't seen her for 4 years.
Wow.
And then, yeah. I was having dreams of her, like, often, and I just, like, didn't really know what to do with that. So I was, like, trying to call and find where she was and figure that out, and then somehow it worked out. I actually celebrated Mother's Day here with my mom.
Wow.
And I don't think I've ever been with my mom on Mother's Day, and I'm 30 years old. So that was just like groundbreaking for me. Yeah. And since being at the bridge, it's actually been like the hardest time of my life. I've had a lot of anxieties, a lot of fear, a lot of panic that's kind of overtaken me at times, and I truly wouldn't have got through it without the strength of God. Like, I've had like just a lot of thoughts of death, like just really afraid, just so afraid, and like couldn't shake it. And you know, I've had you and Rachel and Peggy, and like my bonds with my other friends that are believers have really grown, and even people that, you know, I don't know, like just love thy enemy, right? So like I've been leaning into other relationships that has just strengthened me and my heart and my walk with God. Yeah. So yeah, you guys are awesome, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys every Sunday.
Yeah. Thank you, Audrey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. I just wanted Audrey to share for that to encourage you, because it encourages me. God relentlessly is pursuing her, and he will not stop. And he's going to get her. What becomes cool for us is that we can make ourselves available for God to do that through you and I. So when you pray for someone, when you invite someone, when you serve for someone, when you give, You're doing that for the one. You're doing that so that someone who's lost can come home and be found. And we rejoice. And we throw a party. That's what this is all about. God is doing a huge work in Audrey and her family's life. And we get to play a part in that. So this morning, I know we're late on time, but that's okay. We celebrate corporate communion this morning. If I can invite the band up. And we have the elements here. Every Sunday, first Sunday of the month, we celebrate communion as a body. The elders are going to come forward at the tables, help distribute the elements. And let me just say this. There's going to be a huge temptation for you and I in the next 5 weeks in this series. And the temptation is going to be this. I'm going to put up a screenshot of a tweet I saw about a week ago. Although I'm not even sure if they're called tweets anymore since they've rebranded with an X. But anyways, do we have it? There we go. Here's a temptation that you're going to be tempted to believe. Leaving the 99 for the one is crazy. It is crazy, and you're going to think it's crazy. Man, why leave the 99 just to go find one? Here's the deal. It's not crazy if you're that one. And here's the bigger thing, and this is what communion does for us this morning, is that communion is a reminder for all of us that we are actually all the one. There's ones all around us. I'm the one. I was lost. The older I get, the more I realize, man, if I don't have Jesus, I'm lost. My anxiety will consume me. I'm the one. You're the one. We're all ones. Ones are everywhere. We're surrounded by ones. And it's that communion that at the foot of the cross, it's equal. And we equally get grace and mercy from the Father because he comes after you and he comes after me. And he will not stop. And so communion, we're reminded of that this morning, that it's not that Jesus just came for them, he came for you. There is no us and them in the kingdom. We are all ones, we are all lost, and he finds each one of us and he welcomes us home into his arms. Let me read this verse from the Last Supper that Jesus shared. While they were eating, Jesus took bread and he had given thanks. He broke it and he gave it to his disciples saying this, "Take and eat, this is my body." And he took the cup and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." And so I just want to invite you forward. If you're not a Christian here, that's totally fine. You don't need to come forward. There's no judgment. You can come forward, get the elements, and here's what we want you to do. On your way back to your seat, can you write down one name of that one person that you are committed to pray for who doesn't know Jesus, and then just write it on one of these cards, and there's like a thumbtack type of a thing, and you just stick it on the wall. We just want to see all the ones up on these walls that we are called to pray for. So let me invite you forward at this time.